Welcome to another episode of the Chicks on the Right podcast, where we welcome our friend and sponsor of the show, Zach Abraham from Bulwark Capital Management, to talk to us about the economy and money. And I guess somebody recently, according to Yahoo Finance, somebody did a chat GPT exercise where they asked what would happen if regular Joe Schmo families across the country could write off life expenses in much the same way that corporations get to write off like everything. And and so of course the answer was, well, middle class families would save a ton of money, but the government would take in less revenue. So was this a pointless exercise, or do you think the tax code could and should be adjusted to make wealth, like the wealth gap, shrink a little bit?
And do you think taxation is theft? Do you think it's theft? Discuss. Yes, Zach.
So I guess the better way to put it would be, do I feel like it's theft versus do I think it's theft? Because those are two. So I think one of the best ways to frame a discussion about taxes, and first of all, it requires nuance, because regardless of what plan we come up with, somebody's got to send a check to the government, right? And
Right.
so it's like saying it was the best root canal I ever had, right? Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's make it the least painful, right? Like that's a good one. And so taxes are like that too. So then you kind of sit back and you start taking kind of a bigger look. At least this is what I've done in my life, and gone, wait a second, what makes the most sense, right? And first I'm drawn to something like a flat tax, because it's fair, right? The only issue I have with that is, in a way, it's not, because what that means is that everybody else will be paying a much larger percentage of their income for basic goods than somebody like me would pay, right? Or like even more so with a politician, right? Nancy Pelosi, right? So meaning it's a regressive tax in a way, because you don't want the tax burden to be disproportionately on the smaller guy, right? And what we should want, one of the unique aspects of America, is upward economic mobility. And if you lose the hope of upward economic mobility, you're going to see a lot more nasty things occurring in culture, right? Like the belief that I can get ahead is one of the reasons why I participate, right? It's one of the reasons I don't burn down cities. It's one of the reasons that I don't act like an idiot. So we need that. And I think when you pull back, you go, okay, here's the deal. No one's going to like this. There is no perfect setup, but we should have a tax code that is skewed toward guys that make more money or women that make more money. And with the thought of not punishing them, but the thought of, we're doing that so that there's less of a burden on the lower end, therefore allowing them a greater opportunity to acquire and build wealth. And but like I said, if upward mobility is alive and well, it's much better for a culture. It's much better for a society. Kids have hope.
Is that a fair tax, like a consumption tax then? Are you down with a consumption type of setup?
Or is it like a Herman Cain's 999?
Well, so guys, I hate saying this because it means that I'm going to pay a tax, but I do think an income tax that is somewhat progressive makes sense. And the reason why I say that is because when people you have to have ways to tax wealthy people, because wealthy people have a lot of ways to avoid taxes, right?
Yeah.
So and again, it's not because we don't want to punish them, but if a guy makes $5 million a year, paying 35% is a lot of tax. Okay, but that tax does not impact his lifestyle whatsoever. And I'm not saying that entitles the government to that money. It doesn't. Okay, but if me paying, and I don't make that much money, but if making that much money, if paying that level of taxes meant that the guy that's got 3 kids making 95 grand a year driving truck, or 120 grand a year driving truck, if it means that he's only paying like 10, and that enables him to put bigger amounts of money away in his 401k, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. And I don't like it. Again, we're paying tax. It's not perfect, but we got to step back and go, like, what are we trying to do with these taxes? What is the goal? Now, for people sitting there making the argument that we don't have a revenue problem, that we have a spending problem, that's 100% true, right? So anything that we do on the tax side needs to be met with government getting
Right.
way more efficient. I mean, it's a joke. And people are like, well, what do you mean? Doge didn't find that much. People don't understand the inherent waste that's baked into the cake when it comes to
Oh my
government,
gosh, so
right?
much.
Even stuff that isn't fraudulent. And I'll just tell you right now, if you're having a tough time conceptualizing this, when you are running a for-profit company, making the tough choices to generate a profit isn't easy. Okay. And it's tough to generate a profit in a competitive landscape.
Mm-hmm.
When your primary aim isn't to generate a profit or to be, to be studious with assets, you're not going to be, right. Like
Right.
it's too, fiscal discipline is hard enough when your life depends on it. But
Yeah.
when it doesn't, when the spigot keeps flowing, no matter what you do,
Yeah.
you're going to have massive amounts of waste.
Yeah, you're a
right?
sorority girl on spring break.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, I believe that defense is one of the top spending priorities of a government. I believe that's a job, right? Are you trying to convince me we couldn't cut our defense budget by 15 to 20%
Totally.
and still be just as good? I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it.
I'm
And so,
with
I mean,
you.
I think on average, I feel like you could probably cut 20% from things that do not even directly touch most taxpayers, meaning not slashing Medicare and Medicaid. I think you need to deal with them clearly. But I think you could, if you had responsible, reasonable people that were trying to do the right things and willing to work across the aisle, I don't think pulling back the budget 15 to 20% would be that big of a deal.
Agreed.
Do you think companies get too much in the way of subsidies, tax breaks from the government? From us, essentially?
Yes and no. So, for instance, generally speaking, yes, I think subsidies are a crime against humanity, and I can't stand them. There are going to be scenarios where we need government and private sector cooperation. When done correctly, it's yielded wonderful results. And then also, I think we need to be a little bit more open and conscious of that when considering we're going up against the Chinese. But the Chinese are proving something really interesting right now, right? Everybody focuses on the government collusion with private enterprise. They don't appreciate enough how much the Chinese Communist Party has basically said, okay, we're going to help you get this thing rolling, and then after that, it's Thunderdome, meaning. Right. The strongest hands survive. And they helped all these companies get started and then kind of said, okay, figure it out. And it's been brutal competition, but that competition is why you're seeing them close the gap so fast in EVs. It's why you've seen them completely close the gap in battery technology. Competition works. And that's why every time I hear somebody say capitalism has failed in the United States, I go, no, we've failed. Capitalism doesn't fail. Competition does not quit making people better and stronger. It always does. What happens is you've inculcated and you've insulated these companies from it, from competition. There's a lot of stuff to clean up too. There's a bunch of, the carried interest loophole. That is a joke. That should get nuked right now. There's so many different things you can clean up to close those loopholes that give people and companies an unfair advantage. So yeah,
listen. I still think that taxation is theft, though. I think it's theft. We fought a revolution over a 3% T-tax. So I'm just saying. I
am so sympathetic to that.
A little bit. Of a theft.
Here's the one thing. I think the taxation, the way it's currently done, is theft because I don't believe that an individual taxpayer truly has representation in Washington, D.C. Right. And I think that I think a lot more taxation needs to be local. It is theft. I mean, we did fight a revolutionary war over it, right? How much different is it really from what they were saying back then about a king being so many miles away versus what we're dealing with now?
It's true.
It's true. Bulwark and Zach Abraham have no representation on NDC.
Believe us, we understand the whole corporate thing. We get it. Small businesses get screwed. It's just, it doesn't get any better. You know what I mean? And I feel like they get higher and higher and higher. I mean, hopefully this administration will make it better for us. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't know.
They've got time. They've got time to make it better. And Zach has time to change the hearts and minds of people that have not yet found him with your fabulous seminar that's coming up, in a week or so?
Anyway, yeah. So you can find, we're going to be discussing we're really discussing about who we are, what makes us different, how we're different, not just like everybody else, but also explaining what has changed and how we're positioning to it, and how through a lot of uncertainty, we're having one of our best years right now in the last five or six, and it's not from the normal ways of doing things, and I think that is kind of just the beginning. And so just trying to explain to people the massive shifts that are going on and how that needs to be represented in their portfolios, or they're going to pay the price. And easiest way to get a hold of us is bulwarkcapitalmanagement.com, or go to knowyourriskpodcast.com. We're on YouTube, on all the social media stuff, not hard to find.
I love it. Perfect. It's an exciting time. I love it.
It is.
Thank you, Zach. Appreciate it as always.
Thank you, ladies.
Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. Any references to performance of securities are thought to be materially accurate, and actual performance may differ. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 24308.